Shotgun with Charlie.
Riding shotgun refers to the practice of sitting next to the driver in a moving vehicle. The term riding shotgun came around after the time of the stagecoach, when somebody used to sit next to the driver holding a shotgun, in case they ran into bandits. My name is Charlie Cook, and I drive a lot. I like to talk to people while I'm driving, so I interview people in my car while I'm driving. Welcome to Riding Shotgun with Charlie. All right. Before we get started on this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie, I want to say thank you for tuning in and watching the show. You can watch the show on YouTube, on Gunstreamer, on Full30, and on the Ops Lens app. You can listen to the show in podcast form on all of the podcast outlets. And what I really need you to do is to subscribe to the YouTube channel if you have not done that, and hit the notification bell so you know that shows are coming out. And if you'd like to support the show, you can get some GunGram and some Riding Shotgun with Charlie stickers and patches, and I actually have a few of the credit card knives as well. So if you want to help the show, that would be great. This is how we take the stagecoach across America. All right. Welcome to this episode of Riding Shotgun with Charlie. Today I am in Southington, Connecticut. Did I say that right?
Southington, Connecticut.
Southington, Connecticut. And I have with me Mary Forgues from the DC Project. Did I say that right?
The DC
Project. No, Forgues is what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
okay.
Forgues.
I never know. I love this. She's got her DC Project shirt on. I can't read it because I feel like a pervert. What does it say, though?
It says, educate, advocate, inspire, mentor, organize, and protect.
Awesome. I've got my brandy new Riding Shotgun with Charlie teal-colored logo shirt, which you can get at the ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com. Let's drive around Southington.
It's going to be an experience.
Southington. How come it's Southington and not Southington? You put the emphasis on the different.
Why is Worcester, not Worcester?
There's no H.
Worcester.
Right. All right, so we are here in Southington, Connecticut, and I've got Mary with me. Mary is one of the new, she's like the new cool hip chick in the gun world and on the DC Project scene, and bam! Where are we going here?
Take a right.
We're gonna take a right.
Yeah.
All right. Can we ride on red?
Yeah, you can
This is an interesting intersection.
It is.
Are those guys going straight? I don't see a no turn on red, so we're turning on red.
You can go on red.
Breaking the law. All right. Let's talk about you. You had something completely crazy and freaky happen to you a few years ago, which we're going to get into. But before we get into this, have you always been a gun gal? How did you get into shooting?
I have not always been a gun gal. I actually, when I was growing up, I remember my grandfather, he had a revolver, but that was the only time, other than Nerf guns, that's all I knew about any type of, firearm, was my grandfather had his. It's not something I ever saw him shoot or anything. He just carried it around, and it was like part of his daily wardrobe, like an accessory.
Nice.
Yeah. So then but my mother, when I was a teenager out in Kansas, she did have, her and her husband had purchased firearms, but I wasn't living with them at the time, so I would go out there and visit like in the summertime, but it wasn't something I was around all the time or anything.
Should we go this way or stay straight?
You can go straight.
Okay.
Yeah.
I hope you're not going to get me lost.
I'm not going to get you lost.
Okay. You have to have faith in me that I can drive, and I have to have faith in you that we can get back to where we're going back.
I have all the faith.
All the faith. All right.
I know these.
Because you gotta have.
Yeah, I know all the back roads.
Awesome.
So, then when my daughter was born, she was about 2 years old, went out again to Kansas to go visit my mother, and that was my first time ever shooting a gun. Was finally the guns that she had was my first. They set them up in the backyard. Kansas, there's like no neighbors for miles, so you were able to just kind of like set up in the backyard and shoot.
That's some America.
It's pretty neat. So that was my first time ever shooting a gun, and then when, I'm gonna say about 7 years ago is when I had gone through a breakup with my boyfriend, peaceful breakup, no drama there or anything, so it's not like it triggered for me to get my firearm.
Right.
But at the same time, he was a little bit of a liberal, I'm gonna say. So he was...
This is why you broke up, right?
Yeah. No, I mean, great guy. It's just different interests, I want to say. So I ended up, after that breakup, I ended up going and getting a permit, and I was like, well, also because I was single and having 2 kids, I said, you know, it's probably my responsibility as a parent to protect my children,
yeah,
by all means, and that would include at least having the opportunity to have a gun, you know. So I went and I reached out to my friend Otis, who is a sergeant in my town, and he also does permit classes. And he ended up doing my class for me, got my permit. I'm gonna say probably like 6 months later, I decided to actually go and buy my first gun. So it took me a little while, and it was because my boss at the time, he had been going to the range regularly, and he's like, oh, like, I'll buy your first gun for you, let's go. So
wow.
So we ended up going. He got me a Glock 43, and I loved it. Cool. And that was my baby. And then so yeah, that's how I got into firearms in general. And I was never, I'm gonna be honest, like I've never been, as I said earlier, never been into like politics in general until recently. I never thought that it applied to my life, but obviously it does, and people don't actually realize how much of an impact it is. And I've never been huge into the gun industry until and not even when I first bought my first gun. It was more so after my incident happened in 2019 is when I was like, wow, like, guns are really important. Like, it's an important tool that people need to have. So
yeah, a lot of people grow up, I call it a gun agnostic, where it's, you know, it's not a thing. It's not a thing, it's not an issue, but then something happens and it changes their life. And for me, I didn't grow up hunting or shooting, and my father passed away when I was a kid. So in my house, everyone had long hair and earrings. Like it's just what it was. But it changed for me after I had a kid. Like my son was born in 2001, and then on September 11th, things really changed, and I'm like, oh my God, we live in a dangerous world. I've got this little boy that I need to protect. And in order for me to protect him, I should probably get a gun. Yeah. And it comes with a huge responsibility. And I think the more classes that I take, the more I get into it, the more I embrace myself, the more I realize it's a huge responsibility to carry a firearm.
It is, and a lot of people don't realize how big of a responsibility, especially in the past couple of years, amount of people that just got their permits. I don't think they realize the responsibility, you know, like what comes behind that they have to continue their training. It's not just getting that piece of paper or that plastic card saying like, hey, I can legally obtain a firearm, but there's a lot of training that comes in with that, for sure. For sure. It's we're currently, there are 25 states that have permitless carry, and a lot of I think it's really interesting. I was talking with some people recently, and they were saying that when states get permitless carry, the training actually goes up because more people want to seek out more training. Yeah. It's not everyone gets guns and buys a gun and buys 10 rounds of ammunition and puts in their gun and leaves it in the leaves it in the dresser or wherever. You do have to get some training. You have to learn about it. Absolutely. You got to learn how to shoot and everything else. And I have come around to see that the flaw with requiring training is that people think that that's all the training that they need, and it's not. I agree. I've noticed that a lot of the clients that have come in through our training company are people, a lot of them aren't necessarily in that 2A community, and they don't necessarily advertise that they're doing training or anything like that, but they'll come in for those fundamental courses, and which obviously impresses me, and I'm really proud that people are continuing that education after getting their permit. But I don't think that they realize that there's so much more than just that fundamental course. And they think that if they get into training, like, oh, like that means that I'm like you know, they automatically think it means that they're taking a political stance, that they're saying like that I'm a Republican or whatever, and they're not realizing like that 2A applies to everybody, and they, you know what I'm saying? Like it kind of gets into like a taboo subject for people where they're just like, I don't want to go and get super anxious with my gun training because then it's going to try to, you know, people might classify me as something that I'm not. And I'm just like, but
it's completely frustrating. I mean, you know, we live in occupied territory. I have some friends that I lived with after I became a gun guy. They're like, oh, you know, we knew you before you got into guns, so we know you're not some, you know, right-wing gun nut. And I'm like, oh, let's not be ridiculous. But it wasn't having a gun that made me become a gun nut. It's me seeing that everything is infringement, licensing, training requirements, background checks, magazine restrictions, all this stuff that we live with. It's all infringement, and that's probably what turned me a little more to lean politically to the right, or at least maybe more libertarian, and say, listen, you know what, let people live and let them be themselves, man. Let them do what they want to do, as long as they're not bothering me. Well, like, I don't see what the problem is.
Right. And I don't think people realize that there's, you know, so regularly there's these different types of infringements, or like how they're proposing different bills and different ways that they can come at you. And the thing is that like the reason I became a gun nut was more so because I want my kids to have that opportunity when they're adults, you know, just to have the option of having a gun. They don't have to have one, but I want them to have that option of having one. And I'm realizing like that option could possibly be taken away. Like they're pushing pretty hard for that. So that makes me nervous that my children and their children aren't going to have that opportunity that we have now, and that's going to be decided on off of people's personal emotions and beliefs now, you know? Yeah. So, and that's why I don't think emotions really belong in politics or business anyway. So that you shouldn't be making decisions based off of emotions that are going to affect people down the road. So yeah, it's not our decision to it's not our call to make decisions for other people. Right. Although there are a lot of liberal wackos. Yes. You know, when I teach classes, I always tell people, I'm like, look, I try not to talk politics. I try to stay focused on guns. We have three types of people. We have the pro-gun folks, we have the non-gun folks, and the anti-gun wackos. And I say I'll try to call them the anti-gun folks, but if wacko slips out, I apologize. Yes. They are wackos. They are. And I hate saying that, but it's nuts. I'm sure you've experienced this as well. Yeah, I experienced this as well. I have plenty of friends that are like, well, you know, what are you going to carry a gun for? Are you going to shoot someone when someone's going to follow you? You're going to get into a fight on the side of the road? I'm like, dude, I'm in my 50s. I've never gotten into a fight on the side of the road. Yeah. Have you ever gotten into a fight on the side of the road? Well, no. Okay. What are you worried about, man? But if you had intent to do anything criminal with your firearm, you wouldn't be going and staying on top of your licensing and your training and respecting the laws, even though you don't want to. Like, if you had criminal intent, you wouldn't be doing all these things to stay in line. Exactly. It's people that that are criminals or felons that have different goals. They do. It's guns are just tools. That's all they really are. That is all they really are. All right, so you've been a gun gal for a while. Your boss got you your first Glock. Then an incident happened. Let's get into this. I don't want to say this is what made you famous. This is what made you aware. It's and made people aware of you. I have to be honest, it's kind of cool to see the process of being able to share a story and then seeing how much of an impact it really has made. Because when this incident happened in November of 2019, I spent the first couple months kind of sitting with it, and my phone going off from the courthouse for victim advocacy, saying like, hey, this is when your upcoming court dates are, so to face this person in court. COVID happened, and then I wasn't able to move forward with it, and it kind of sat on the back burner when COVID happened. No more court dates or anything like that, and I had to sit with the the event in my head by myself and not be able to move forward. So that's why I was like, you know what, I have to talk to somebody about it. So
did you find a therapist to talk to?
I did. I ended up going to a therapist who's an amazing woman, and she helped me a lot with like EMDR. So it's a
what's that?
It's a type of therapy that it basically helps you with, I don't even know what it stands for, honestly. I'll have to look up what EMDR.
Right, we'll look it up.
We'll look it up. But it helps you with trauma. If you've been in a traumatic experience, it helps you kind of retell it, but how to deal with it and where it's not going to trigger you. So basically, I started talking to her about it, and then after, I'm going to say May of 2020, so we're a few months into COVID, and I wasn't able to go back to work yet because I was in the restaurant industry, and I took over my boyfriend's company, Paravan Group. And when I took over, we started doing a lot of women's classes because they didn't really exist here in Connecticut, other than A Girl and a Gun, which a lot of people they honestly don't know about it. So
Robin, you need to step it up, girl.
So like, I didn't know about it until, I'm gonna say, into later of 2020, and I had my permit for a decent amount of years by that point. So when I started taking over with his firearm training and creating that female community, one night he had to run to the building we were doing training in. Is 4 floors, and he had to run from the 4th floor down to the 2nd floor to go grab another gun that somebody wanted to test drive, basically, in the class. So I did all the photography and videography for our courses. So I was standing there on the range with these women, and I had 8 women in front of me, and one of them was talking about how nervous she was because this was like an intro to handgun course. So other than her permit course, it was her first course since then, and she was talking about that she was nervous. And then another woman was talking about that she had lost her nephew in a shooting, and that she was nervous because she's thinking about what that other person is going to be feeling. And so everyone, and I started realizing that all these women had stories, but they never had actually fully talked about it. So at that time I was like, I don't know why, but I went out of my comfort zone, and I told my story, and it helps all 8 of those women move forward in that course that night, where they're like, you know what, like, this is important because to protect themselves, protect their children. And so that was, I'm gonna say, May or June of 2020. And then about a year later, after doing these women's only intro to handgun courses, I met Holly Sullivan. I did like a meet and greet women's event at our training range, and I had not met Holly previously, but I reached out to her and I was like, hey, I see that you are a female in this industry and that you're the president of the CCDL, and I would love for you to come down and introduce yourself. So she came down, introduced herself, and then she mentioned the DC project, and that I was like, hey, those might be my kind of people.
Right.
So that's how everything kind of escalated since my incident, and how much it benefited me that, just from sharing my story, and then Holly hearing my story, and then her also saying like, hey, like, we would like for you to come down to Gainesville, Florida in October and share your story, and just, we just want to kind of meet you and for you to meet us and see if there could be like a relationship there moving forward. And there definitely is one. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
So,
all right, we're going to pick up at that. Let's talk about the incident.
Yes, absolutely.
We've stringed people along long enough.
Just to give you quick background, I had previously been working with veterans, and this specific person, because one question I always get is, did you know this person? I did know this person through me helping veterans that were going through substance abuse hiccups, issues, struggling with that, and all right, so November 15th of 2019, it was a Friday night. My son was at a sleepover. My daughter was at the movies with her friends, and around about a half hour after my daughter actually left, so I'm gonna say around like 9 o'clock at night, I was upstairs in my bedroom with one of my dogs, and I kept my dogs separate because they hated each other. And
right, that's hold on. Another issue. Why do you have two dogs that hate each other? Like, why don't you get rid of one of them?
I did. I ended up. I did.
I'm not a pet guy, so this.
No. I ended up getting rid of one of them. Okay. He actually now lives up in Massachusetts with family, so didn't totally kick him to the curb because I love him, but he did get rehomed with family. So, but at the time they had hated each other for probably about like a month, like they were just going at it.
So there's just a little try up here.
But so I'm upstairs and I'm in my bedroom with one of the dogs, and I'm texting my employer at the time. So I had just started at Delta Arsenal, which is a shooting range down here in Connecticut. So that was actually me transitioning into the firearm industry on my own prior to this happening. So I was texting him about, like, you know, thank you for the opportunity this week, you know, really looking forward to everything, yada yada. And as I'm texting him, my house kind of shakes and I hear a bang, and I obviously go running downstairs, like there's a problem. So I run downstairs, and this gentleman, Mike, is standing in my kitchen. I hate calling him gentleman. I usually have a much colorful word, but I understand that there's cameras. Something, you know, like something Samuel Jackson would say. Yeah, exactly. Right. So he had come through my back door, and I had certifications, not legitimate like where I had degrees, but certifications with mental health, and that's obviously what I had been working with people with previously. And I was like, all right, so maybe I can, you know, try to de-escalate the situation, diffuse this. And he knows me, I know him, it's not a complete stranger, so I'm like, maybe this is something I'm going to be able to help him figure out. But obviously my heart is racing, and I'm like, this person just broke in through my back door, like this is obviously a problem. I could tell that he was on something, like his eyes, he was not there, he saw right through him, and he was, you know, he's sweaty but like pale, so he just did not look healthy. And I could tell that he was on something, and we later found out that he had opiates in his system and alcohol, so he just was not great at that moment. So standing in my kitchen and you know, trying to say, you know, what happened. Let me back up a little bit. That morning I did get a phone call at 10 o'clock in the morning from the doctor. So Mike was at the Stonington Institute down by Foxwoods, and he was in there for a program for substances, and the VA had actually just transferred him there, and he was there for a couple days. And the doctor called me on that Friday morning and said, we have to let you know because you know, Mike his family had cut him off from communication for the most part. So he had put me down as an emergency contact because I had been helping him through his process with substances. So doctor calls me, says Mike ACA'd, which is against clinical advice. He left our program. We told him he should be staying here, and he said he's not going to, and that he was taking off. From their understanding, he was going back to the Boston area, so he's actually from Brockton, Bridgewater area. So they said looks like he's going back up there, but we just have to call and let you know because you're an emergency contact. So I said, okay. So back to him standing in my kitchen, he says to me, you know, completely panicked, he's like, you know, I left the doctors today. He tells me that they let him out, that you know, that they let him out because he was done with the program. Obviously that's a lie because I already knew the answer to that. And he says that he is looking for a piece of paper that they apparently had given him that day that shows his blood levels, that he has cirrhosis and cancer, and that he's dying, and he needed this piece of paper, and that's why he broke in through my back door.
Is this something you would keep at your house?
No. And the only time that he had been to my house previous to that was you know, like earlier that year in July, my daughter had a birthday party, and my brother knew him from the VA because my brother also was in the VA. So my brother knew him from the VA, and my brother had brought him and like 3 or 4 other guys from the VA with him a weekend of my daughter's birthday back in July, and they helped move stuff from my house to the park for the cookout. So that's the only time, that's why he knew where I lived, was because he had been there for that previously. And so yeah, so then he says he's looking for this piece of paper. I'm like, you know what, I don't have it, blah, blah, blah. And he's saying like, no, like it definitely has to be here. And I'm like, okay, you know what, like I'm gonna help you find it. And obviously I'm like, I don't know what he's looking for, but I'm gonna pretend like I'm gonna help him look for it, and then at the same time call for help and have somebody, you know, have the police come, because again, there's this guy broke in through my door. That's still my main focus, is that, you know, there is a threat there. So I went upstairs. I said, stay right here. I'm gonna go put my dog back upstairs in my bedroom, so they don't kill each other. And but also my phone was upstairs on my bed at the time, because when I was texting my boss and when I heard this noise, I ran downstairs and I kind of threw my phone to the side. Sure. And I should have brought it with me, but I panicked and ran downstairs, honestly. I don't know why. Lessons. These are lessons, right? Right. So I ended up going back up into my bedroom, and I go to shut the door, or I go to put the dog in the room, and I walk across the room. My bed's on the other side of the room, and I go to pick up my phone to call for help. And as I'm picking up my phone, and I turn back around and I go to like, I walk outside my bedroom door, and he's coming up the stairs. So
it's a little freaky.
Yeah, so he's coming up the stairs, and he does this thing where he kind of like puts his arms out, like one arm out in front of him, saying like, go in front of me type of thing. Where he wanted me to go down the stairs. And I was like, Mike, I gotta be on it. And this is where, I don't know if this was I don't know, I think I've made a lot of mistakes, but I said, this feels off, there's something wrong here, you're gonna have to give me a second, and I'm gonna have to like go in my room and basically like figure out what's going on type of thing. Right. I don't remember the exact wording, but it's literally like, this feels off and you're gonna have to give me a second. So I turned around and I went to go walk into my room, and this all happened very quickly, even though the story's dragged out, but it happens really quickly. So I go back into my room, and I went to go like, at the same time of shutting my door and sliding the lock shut, I was about to like exit out of the text with my employer, and then open up the call app and then press 911, like go through the whole process. But I realized that's a lot of work just to get into the phone app. And at the time, I did not know that if you hold down the two buttons on your phone, the power and the volume, I believe, that it will give you an option to call 911 immediately. Right. So that's an important thing that people should know. So I go back into my bedroom, slide the door shut, and instead of backing out of the call, I just, at the very top, I hit the contact's name and hit call. That way I'd have somebody on the phone. So it was like a quick maneuver that I was hoping that somebody would get onto the phone pretty quickly. So I press call, and at the same time I move across the room back over to my bed, because I want to get as far away from that door as possible at that time.
That's good thinking.
Yep. So, and it took him, I think it was around like 8 times to use his body to slam up on my door and to break in through that sliding lock that was on my door. And when the police actually had come later on, they were looking for the ring part that connects to the door frame where the lock goes into, and it was on the other side of the room. So the force from his body, like it flew all the way over to the other side of the room. So he comes in the door, and he's obviously looks like he's going to kill me, and tells me, yells at me to put the phone down. And at that time I already had the phone ringing, and I obviously wasn't gonna hang up the phone call or anything like that. And he comes at me and immediately gets on top of me and pushes me down in the bed and starts choking me. So both hands are around my neck, and obviously I'm moving a lot, trying to just get him off me. Yeah, fight him off me. And so he starts hitting me in the face, and then he goes back to choking me. And at that time, you know, I'm pulling his hands, trying to pull his hands off of my neck, but I have like my left hand is on his hands, my right hand is over to my right side, and he yeah, so he's choking me, I'm trying to get air, and then he ends up hearing the voice on the phone. So by that time, the voicemail ends up picking up, not a person, which I was hoping for a human being to pick up, but the voicemail picks up, and he doesn't hear what they're saying, but he just hears that there's a male voice on the phone, and obviously he's thinking like, shit, I gotta hang up this phone call. So he then takes his right forearm and puts it onto my neck, and his left hand is over my right hand, and he's trying to pry that phone out of my hands. And that's when, you know, I went from like, shit, I have to breathe, to like, okay, like, what am I gonna look like when Lily comes home? Like, oh my God, like, my daughter's gonna see my face completely beaten, my body, like, I don't know what she's gonna see, honestly, but I know she's gonna see her mom lifeless, completely dead. And that's, you know, I didn't, and at the same time I'm thinking, like, I don't care if he breaks my fingers when he's trying to get this phone out of my hands, but I did not want to let go of that phone, because at the same time I didn't know that it was a voicemail either. Like, I just I heard the voice pick up, so I was not gonna let go of that phone. And then something clicked where I was like, shit, like, you know, when Lily comes home from the movies, not only is she gonna see me dead, but she's also going to possibly be that next victim. So never mind, what am I gonna look like? What is she gonna look like? And imagining like your child going through anything like that, tearing up a little bit right now, but to imagine your child going through anything like that, that puts more fight in you than for your own life. Like, I never realized that, even as being a parent for all those years, I never realized like how much your kid's life matters more than your own. So I realized that his focus was the phone at that moment, and my focus was Lily. So I dropped my phone between the bed and the wall, and I, you know, his body shifted to my right side, so he was trying to like grab that phone that fell between the bed and the wall, and I had the opportunity where I just started like punching him a bunch of times with my left hand into his right ribs, and finally, you know, he kind of gets off me a little bit and is trying to get that phone still, and I was able to push him off me, also like fully get out from underneath him. I run back to the other side of my room where my dresser was, and opened the top drawer and pulled out my beautiful Glock 43, and I ended up pointing it at him. So I turned around, and I was like, in my head, I'm like, holy shit, like, I'm literally aiming a firearm at a human being. Like, nobody wants to take somebody else's life. That's not a goal, unless you are a criminal, unless you have ill intent. But even in those moments, like, you don't want to have to kill somebody, but you will. And you know, so he turns around, he hangs up the phone, and he kind of laughs, and he says, are you going to shoot me? And at first I froze, because or I did, not that I froze, but I didn't respond, because I'm processing that in my head too. Like, I'm processing like, shit, I'm gonna shoot somebody. And then he asked again, like he kind of laughed, like a creepy laugh, and he's like, you're really gonna shoot me? And I was like, if you get up, if you come at me again, I'm going to shoot you. And the one thing I say often is that, you know, the officers afterwards, one of the officers had asked me, you know, what was his reaction? What did his face look like when you had your gun pointed at him? Like, how was he acting? I said, I have no idea, because all I could see was his blurry torso in the background, and my front sights were completely clear, and I was ready for that. And so I wasn't paying attention to his face. I was making sure that shot was gonna be effective. So when I realized he wasn't moving, I processed that I was able to de-escalate that situation at least enough where I was able to retreat. So I noticed that my bedroom door is closer to me now, which was now on my left, and so I dodged out my bedroom door and went right across the hallway. like it's like you look for that first security point of like, okay, where can I find some type of shelter, immediate shelter, not thinking that it's not practical shelter. So I went right across the hall into the bathroom, and I slid that lock shut. Still had my gun on me, but I realized, all right, I'm in a much smaller room, and like as I'm sliding the lock shut, I'm like, shit, this is the same lock that he just broke through in my bedroom. So literally the exact same lock. So I was like, if he could do that, then he could break through this. So then I'm like, oh my God, like he's gonna come at me in here. But then I could hear him, you know, kind of moving around. I think he's walking around a little bit, maybe in my room. I could hear him that he was at a distance. And he was talking, which apparently I think he was talking to himself, because again, he's drugged up. He's kind of medicated at that point. So I end up cracking the bathroom door open, realizing that he's still in my room and he's further away. And I ran down the stairs immediately to my left and out the front door. You know, front sidewalk, run, you know, crazy lady, middle of November with a, not crazy lady, but I'm not a crazy person with a gun, but there's a lady running down the sidewalk, you know, middle of November in shorts and a t-shirt, barefoot.
It's Target Sports USA.
That's Target
We should
Sports.
see if they have ammo.
Yeah, they definitely have ammo. They actually have tactical police gears back there. And
I saw it when we drove by.
Yeah.
Target Sports, they ship everywhere.
Yeah, Target Sports is great.
Sorry.
So basically I, you know, running down the sidewalk to my neighbor's house, and there was a car that drove by, and I'm thinking, like, I hope to God that they call the cops and say I just saw somebody running with a gun, even though that obviously puts me in a little bit of danger. But at the same time, I was thinking, like, as long as it'll get the cops here called quicker. And so I go to the neighbors, and I banging on they had like their storm door locked. It was like a full glass door, so I'm banging on that, thinking, like, you know, I might break their glass, but I don't care. Like, I'm sorry, but I don't care. Right. And the guy ends up coming out, and I'm like, you know, please call the police. I was just, you know, somebody just broke into my house, attacked me, etc. And there's a chain link fence separating my yard and my neighbor's yard. So as I'm standing there talking to my neighbor, not talking casually, but I'm panicking to my neighbor, and I look over, and Mike had come out the back door, the same door that he broke into, comes out the back door, and I just see like the amber from a cigarette, and he lights up a cigarette, like casual. And really, really scary to realize that psychological break that people can hit, that they no longer have any type of feeling. They have no remorse, they have no emotion, they don't even realize what they just did to somebody. So by the time, so then I end up going back down the sidewalk by my house, back in through the front door that I came out of, coming through the front door. And I've never done like a barricade type of training course or low light or anything like that, but at that time, you know, my house was pretty dark, and I had to move around the downstairs of my house and go from the front door to the back door. And I just wanted to make sure that he was still in that backyard, basically. Yeah. And so I ended up, I go to the back, I see that he's still in the back, and I just sat there waiting for the police. So the police took at least over 10 minutes to get there. Actually, this is the same sergeant that had helped me with my permit class. I reached out to him, and I said, and I reached out to him like a couple months ago. I said, hey, can you just give me the time, like give me an idea of like how long it actually took for you guys to respond that night. And he's like, well, you have to understand, like there was a shift change going on at that time, and we're all in roll call, and by the time you get it into, by the time dispatch gets it and it hits the towers and like the timing and everything, he's like, it's at least like 10 minutes.
10 minutes, holy crap.
Yeah.
All right, so it took 10 minutes for the police to get there?
It did. I actually reached out to my friends that had did my permit class, obviously a few years back, 7 years ago, and I asked him, because he was the sergeant on that, and I asked him how long it took, and he said that by the time that it hits the towers, the cell towers, and also because they were in roll call at the time, and with all these different pieces that came into play, that the estimate is over 10 minutes, but obviously the time that the actual call went in, it doesn't start until like a minute or two after that first, so when the call goes in.
So legit, this old saying that we hear, when the seconds count, the police are minutes away.
Yeah. Could you imagine, like, if let's say in that moment, if I had ended up calling the police, which would have been ideal, if I would have called the police when he first broke into my room, then if that had taken 10 minutes, I still would have had to go through that same struggle, the same fight, everything I still went through, that still happened in less than 10 minutes. So yes, they would have gotten there sooner, but really with that 10-minute wait, I was waiting in my house for them to arrive rather than fighting for my life, if that makes sense. So
yeah, it's I'm not trying to cut you off here, but I do always tell people, listen, nothing against the police. The police are, even though the car says to serve and protect, it's really to clean up and write a report.
It is.
It really is.
It is. And I'll be honest, like the original arresting officer hadn't put down like all of the charges that they should have put down, and later on, about actually not about a week later. So that Monday when we would have gone to court is when they added on all the additional charges. But those original charges gave him the opportunity to have a lower bond to be able to get out, and his sister ended up bonding him out. That when this had happened, by the time everything was wrapped up, I'm gonna say around like 10:30, 11 o'clock, between like the police leaving from writing reports and everything, and me getting checked out, around 3:30 I was able to actually start to fall asleep, and at 5:30 I get a text from the officer that was patrolling my district to say like his sister had not only bailed him out or bonded him out, but that he had also returned back to my address, and they arrested him back on the front steps of my home while I was sleeping. So he was homeless. He was obviously still had stuff in his system, and even though the conditions of his release was to, hey, you obviously cannot return back to this address because there's a victim involved.
Right.
He did not care what the police said, so it actually ended up on the news. It says like, Naugatuck arrest, I think it says like Massachusetts man arrested twice in one night or whatever, like within 8 hours. So
that's how we roll in the Commonwealth.
Yeah. Yep. So it was really scary. So if I didn't have my gun, right, if I didn't have something to run to, even if I attempted to just run out my bedroom door and down the stairs, then he could have easily pushed me down the stairs. He would have came after me. I didn't have anything to keep him, to have control over him and keep him at bay. So 100% that gun saved my life. Like I can't say that anything else would have. There's no other tool, or talking to him, because I had attempted that when he first came in, like trying to calm him down and be like, let's talk about what's going on. So there's nothing at all that de-escalated that situation other than my gun.
Wow.
Yeah.
So, court case, what happens with this guy?
So court case, we ended up going to obviously like the initial court case that like Monday right after it had happened, because when he got arrested that second time, then they ended up keeping him in until that Monday because he obviously violated those conditions of release. And when what?
I was gonna say, so they let him go the first time, but they caught him the second time. Then they really mean business.
Then they're like, oh,
right, he's not a good guy.
We have to enforce the law. Got it. So anyways, so in December, we ended up having a court date. In January, we have a court date, and it's more so where they're, he has somebody representing him and saying like that he's not a menace or anything like that, and that he's going to stay sober, and that he's in a program, and that all of this was caused because of substances, and that he's going to be on better behavior.
Wasn't there a program before?
Yes, there was about a decade of programs, I'm gonna say.
A decade of programs.
Yeah.
But now it's really gonna work.
Now it's gonna work.
Yeah.
Yep. Now they're serious. So they then COVID hit, and then being on that whole victim phone list. Every time that there's a court date coming up for your case, they call. It's an automated system, and they're like, we have to let you know this case number, it's gotten delayed again. So like every other month I was getting a phone call saying, like, all through COVID, like, it's gotten delayed. I'm like, God, like, it's like I just wanted to get it done with and shut down, you know.
Yeah.
And then April of 2021, I get a phone call that he actually had died. They found him dead in a hotel room up in Bridgewater, Brockton area.
Brockton.
And he,
shocking.
Yeah, Brockton. No offense to anybody from Brockton, but
so I used to teach
healthy.
in a town next to Brockton.
Okay.
Right? I used to teach in Stoughton next to Brockton. And there may have been a gentleman's club there.
Yeah, maybe.
It may have been Alex's. Maybe. It may have been Alex's. And I had a student in Stoughton whose mother worked there. So this kid would go, 7th or 8th grade, this kid would go to the strip joint to wait for his mom to finish her day shift because she was a day shifter.
Impressive.
Yeah.
Impressive.
Right. Let's hear it for Brockton.
So,
anyway.
But yeah, they did end up finding him dead. He had been there for a few days, and around that same time is when I met Holly. So
there's the happy ending.
There's the happy ending. Literally, it's like and again, previously I was like, I've always been an advocate on some level, whether it's for, you know, veterans, or if it has to do with, you know, for child abuse and stuff like that. I've always been an advocate for opportunities for people to have better options in life, you know. But it's always been from, you know, with the veteran thing is more so because of what my brother had lived previously, and I was like, oh, I'm doing it for my brother. And like this year, I'm like, wow, like, you know, as much as I appreciate the opportunity to share my story with other women through our firearm training company, I realized, like, meeting Holly in the DC project, I'm like, wow, like, now my story actually has the opportunity to make a larger impact, and it's not just, you know, like, I'm not gonna say casual conversation, but it's not like that conversation is gonna end there, you know. It's not like the story ends there with that person I'm telling it to. Now, not only am I able to share my story, but you know, I just had this past Wednesday night, we did a DC project for Connecticut. We did like our monthly Zoom meeting, and this new girl that had joined us, she has a story. So like now there's these people that have stories, these women that have stories that I'm not gonna say setting that standard, but I'm showing them the opportunity to make something very positive out of it. And
oh my gosh,
yeah, it's pretty cool.
That's pretty wild.
Yeah, so the goal is, as much as I love the opportunity to share my story, the goal is that I want to kind of let these women know that their story matters and that they have a massive impact, and a lot of them are, you know, mothers, and how it's going to affect their children, and or like other women in their social circle, you know, at the kids' baseball game, that other women might feel like it's, again, like, taboo subject that nobody wants to talk about. And I'm just trying to give that opportunity that, like, no, this is normal. Like, it's literally in the Constitution. That's how normal it is. It's like written about. So everyone should have the opportunity.
What's not normal is that people end up on substances and end up hurting and harming other people. Like, that's not the normal part.
Right. That's,
you know,
that's my thing. And I'll be honest, like, previously I was 100%, you know, trying to help people in those situations, and then after this, I'm just like, no offense to anybody, but I'm not in that wheelhouse anymore to even attempt to help anybody, because I noticed that it takes a lot of medical and psychological guidance on
it does take something from themselves to it's not that you don't want to help people, but people have to be willing to help themselves.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right. And I can't offer that anymore, so now I'm trying to help people on a different level. But I just
the potential victims.
The struggle with substance abuse, and not just substance abuse is obviously, you know, a subcategory of psychological stuff that's going on, you know. So it's really that whole psychological aspect, and it has nothing to do with like gun owners or anything like that. It's literally everybody is struggling with something, but too many people avoid it, and they find ways to cover up those struggles. So and it's, you know, I hope that people are going to start having the opportunity to talk about it more, you know, like
Yeah.
It's definitely a lot.
It is a lot. It is a lot. So it's turned out that you have you've connected with some of the alpha women, and alpha women like Holly and Diana Muller and Amanda Suffolk and everybody. All these ladies that are in the DC project. I've had a number of the DC. So I like this. I like to say that I've been with Miss Ohio, I've been with Miss Maine, I've been with Miss Texas, Miss Arizona, Miss Connecticut, Miss Rhode Island, 2 Miss Massachusetts.
Wow.
So right, I get to go through and say I get to hang out with all these chicks.
Yeah.
So what I don't want to rehash what the DC project is, but you get together to go down to Washington D.C. to talk to politicians about the largest growing demographic of firearms owners. But you guys are doing stuff on the state level as well.
Yes. So this is, again, in the past, politics really, I didn't know anything about it. It's not that I wasn't, that it didn't apply to me. I just didn't know anything about it. So in the past few months alone, I'm realizing different processes that you have through your state, because obviously you learn that in like 7th or 8th grade and you don't really touch base on it.
You should learn it in 7th or 8th grade.
I know. But the cool thing is like, so I had never provided testimony before, and we did that public hearing with the CCDL on March 14th, where we hosted an event where you know, our members, or not just our members, but anybody was able to come and use our laptops, and we had like a social event where people were providing their testimony. So they would register ahead of time, and then when their number was called, they would use our laptops to do the public hearing testimony. So that was my first time ever providing testimony, and I was so nervous.
Sure.
And then when I was done, I was like, holy crap, everybody has to do this. Like, this is like, it's a cool thing to be able to use your voice and just tell, you know, just talk to people that are in positions, you know, those powerful positions, and be like, hey, I want to tell you why this is important to me, and this is what you can do to help me out to make it, you know, to make it effective. So, yeah. So I haven't been to DC yet. This will be my first year going down to DC, and I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be quite an experience. I was down in DC back in January when we recorded
with the video.
Yeah, the video.
The video. We'll put a link for this in the description below.
So that was my first time going down to DC. So I'm glad I had like that little test drive when I was down there. But I'm looking forward to it later on this year. I think we're going down in September.
Nice.
And that'll be a whole new experience for me, so I don't have too much to talk about with that. But as far as like you're talking about, like meeting like these very powerful and strong women within this industry. So obviously I've talked about Holly Sullivan. I love her. Like, I have so much respect for her. Like,
yeah, she's awesome. Yeah, she really is.
We're both single moms, and we both hustle hard, and we're driven by passion, and then also driven by paying our checks. So we have like our regular, paying our bills. So we have like our regular job to make sure that our homes are staying steady, and then at the same time we fill all of our extra time with advocacy and like how to make the world a better place. And I have so much respect for her, because I find myself in her a lot, or things that I admire about her that I would like to be like, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
She's just great. And
she is. I have a ridiculous story. We were in Vegas at SHOT Show this year.
Yep.
And we were out late.
I heard a few stories about SHOT Show Vegas. So let's see where this goes.
We were out late, and we couldn't find an Uber. It seemed like it was impossible to find where you meet the Ubers. So we ended up walking back. I ended up walking her to her hotel, and before we left the Venetian,
that was a long walk.
It's a long walk.
Yeah,
she crashed her toe into something and broke her little toe.
Yeah.
She powered through and walked at least a mile.
And she was probably wearing heels, because Holly always wears heels. So she did it in heels.
She was carrying her heels. That's how she broke her toe. But she's an amazing trooper.
She is.
She's an amazing. It sent me a picture of her toe, and I'm like, this is disgusting. I don't want to see this.
Not the type of feet pics you're into.
Right. It would not go over well on the feet only fans page.
No. So I admire her. I admire all of them, but like Beth Walker. Do you know Beth Walker?
I have not had the pleasure of meeting Beth Walker and having her on the show.
You're gonna have her on the show, and plus because she actually just started working with SIG, so she's gonna be up in the area.
She's gonna be in New Hampshire.
Yeah, she's gonna be up there at least once a month. So I would definitely reach
Beth
out
Walker,
to her.
I'm coming for you, girl.
Do it. So
and I don't mean that in a weird, creepy way.
She's I think she's like 20 or 21, and
young.
She just but she just comes with like such a force. It's insane, and she's another one of those go-getters. So she does a lot of marketing and advertising stuff throughout the industry. Not throughout the industry. I think she was with Arsenal Media previously. Obviously, she does a lot for DC Project.
Yeah.
And then now she's doing it with SIG. She does the 3-gun competition, and even though she's still younger in age, the girl just, there's no slowing her down. Like, she just has so much going on. So I respect her a lot, because I have a marketing company that's more small business. Like, I'm not working for SIG or anything, but I see what she's doing, and I'm like, wow, like, that's definitely like my type of person.
That's cool.
And then obviously Diana Muller, like, she wears so many different hats, and you know what she's created here with the DC project, and there's no like, I'm gonna say like financial benefit or gain for her, and it's literally just because she's using the platform that she already had to make an impact across the entire nation. So you know, when I saw these women that are involved in the DC project, that's why it's like, yes, that's where I want to be. Those are my type of people. You know, I came from the restaurant industry, and I'm just like, I don't drink, I don't go out like all these people from the restaurant industry, and I finally found like my type of people within the DC project. So
that's cool.
It is pretty cool.
That is cool. All right, so you talked about how there's no financial gain. It does take money to do this. So what kind of things do you do to raise some money to get you to DC?
Sure. So obviously I've been the state director only for about a month, a little over a month now. So I'm going to tell you what my goals are. So which I already have one of our biannual brunches coming up in a few weeks, and I plan on having these brunch fundraisers that are more of also like a meet and greet, and to get new delegates to sign up for the DC project, get more women involved, and this gives them the opportunity. They pay $30 and they come and get they leave with a swag bag. They leave with, you know, everyone gets like door prize, the raffle tickets for when you arrive, and then you also get like bottomless mimosas, Bellinis, Bloody Marys, right?
Bottomless mimosas.
See, aren't you sad you're missing it?
Yes. When's the next one?
The next one will be in the fall. I plan on spring and fall. So
bottomless mimosas?
Yeah, bottomless.
They're good because they have orange juice in them, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
it's
like a health
C.
drink.
Yeah, it's like a juice cleanse or something, right?
Right. Eventually.
So it's healthy. It's got
it'll be fine. It's got orange juice. Here we go. Yeah.
So bottomless, you know, brunch beverages, and then also tons of food. We have, for this one that's coming up in a few weeks, we have a Ruger that was donated by a local gun shop that will be a raffle item.
Nice.
So there's different things that you're getting to leave with that day, even, you know, even if you're not wanting to be like a face within DC projects, everyone's benefiting from these events.
That's cool.
So, and the money, all proceeds, 100% of it is getting donated by my marketing company to the DC project. So it's not the DC project that's hosting the event.
Yep.
It's typically what we do is we have a private or a smaller business or even a larger business that hosts a fundraiser, and the funds go directly to the DC project from that company.
Very cool.
So that's something I'll be doing, like I said, twice a year in Connecticut. I might even go bug Carrie Ann and see if she wants to collaborate on a few of those, because
something here in the Northeast.
Yeah, maybe we'll go up to like Sturbridge, Mass area or something.
Yeah, come to the hometown.
Do a brunch up there. So then, on top of that, I am creating these relationships with small businesses within Connecticut that are that will host a monthly fundraiser with their business. So one of them I did back in February was with a company called Second Armament Company, and it's an apparel company. It's all obviously Second Amendment focused, and they actually their shirts and their hoodies were designed for concealed carry. They're made in America. Nice. The cotton comes, I believe, from Louisiana. It gets sent to California. The shirts are made, and then they're sent up here to Connecticut where they're printed. And they're made for concealed carry, where they added the 2 inches to the bottom of the shirt, so that way you have that. So back in February, they did the monthly fundraiser, and we had I can't remember what the design said. I think it says infringe this, and it had like a teal logo on it. Nice. And but the proceeds from that got donated to DC projects. So another one's a holster company, another one's an ammo company. So there's these different companies within Connecticut. I plan to not only have them as firearm companies. I want to get other small business like sports, sports stores and like mom and pop type places to do, because I'm all about supporting small businesses too.
Yeah, absolutely.
And what it will be is every January, Syndicate Concealment will repeat their same for their business. It'll be a tradition. We always do the January fundraiser for DC Project, and then February it'll always be Second Armament. So it's a tradition on their end, and it keeps a steady fundraiser donation for us on our end for DC Project throughout the year. So
that is awesome.
Yeah, there's been a few hiccups, nothing crazy, but I think I think that's going to be pretty successful. It has been pretty successful.
That's awesome. That's great.
So that's what I'm doing.
Oh my gosh, I love having these women on that are getting stuff done, because it makes me realize how much I'm slacking. So that is so cool.
It is pretty cool. I'm excited for it.
So cool. So are you an instructor? You teach people, or? I
will be an instructor. So the end of June, I get my USCCA. So reached out. Actually, Brian Chamberlain had reached out to me, and we were going back and forth. Yeah. He's from Delta Defense, and we were talking about putting together, or he was putting together a course, and he's like, hey, the next one that I'm having is end of June. Would love for you to come and become an instructor. So I also just recently became a partner with them. So nice. I have a lot going on with USCCA, but I haven't talked about it much, just because I'm want to become an official instructor. Then I have.
Then you have access.
Yeah, then it makes more sense for me, because I don't want to. I don't want to look like a fraud or anything. So I'm waiting until I build that up a little bit. But I will be an instructor. I'll be honest, I don't think it's gonna be something where I'm going to be hardcore like running firearm training nonstop. But I am going to be offering opportunities.
Awesome classes, sure.
Right.
Absolutely. Yep. Oh my God, that's great.
Yep.
I would. So. This is what I get confused about with Connecticut. Connecticut says in order to take a class, you have to have take a class that has live fire as part of the curriculum, and that's all it says. Nothing other than the NRA home firearm safety doesn't count. The NRA basic pistol does. Basic pistol shooting does. Right. That's it. That's all it says. And I get really confused. I'm like, well, does this class count? Would a USCCA shooting class count?
I think it's an actual permit class. It's an 8-hour permit course.
Yeah. It gets really confusing sometimes.
Yeah, Connecticut sucks.
And I'm not. Girl.
It's a communist state.
But occupied territory is what I call us.
Yeah.
Yeah. So in Massachusetts, we have specific classes that if you teach these classes, they have to be done by a Massachusetts certified instructor. You don't need the NRA certificate to get your Mass license, but you do have to have a certificate that says you've done the NRA class, and the certificate it's the state's certificate from the state police, and it has to be signed by someone that's an official certified instructor through the state. It's wicked confusing, kid.
It's a lot.
Hey, kid, it's really confusing, and I'm lost.
I've been looking into getting my Massachusetts permit, because obviously I'm from Massachusetts, and I'm up there at least once every other week, I'm gonna say, and I would like to be able to carry my gun over the border into Massachusetts.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, there's days where I just can't wear it. So. Yeah,
it's ridiculous. I do not have a Connecticut permit, so I am disarmed, but I'm not unarmed. If you know what I mean.
I don't know what you mean.
Oh, come on!
Because of your, the pocket knife thingy?
I may have a couple of knives on me. And
Okay,
I may have the leg of a bar stool.
Alright, I got you.
In the car.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
And I also have aerosol hairspray and a Bic lighter. That's a flamethrower.
Okay.
So I am not unarmed. I'm disarmed, but I'm not unarmed.
Gotcha.
Anyway, yeah, I want to get my Connecticut permit, and I want to get my Rhode Island permit too. And these are on my list of things that I need to do, but I haven't done it. So
I feel like it's mandatory. Like with all of our states being so close together, like we're constantly having to cross through the travel. Like when I go to the Cape,
once a week, I go to one of the places where I work, and I drive in Connecticut for maybe a half mile, and I drive through that area as fast as I can because I don't. Right?
Well, that's the opposite of what you should be doing. You're not supposed to drive fast because then you get pulled over.
I used to say the same thing to people when I played in a band. We're like, listen, if you're drunk, drive home fast because there's, get off the road.
Horrible advice.
I know. That's the best part about it. All right, listen, we need to wrap things up. We are almost back to where we need to be. How can people find you and your biz? And I'll include DC project links. I'll include all that stuff.
Honestly, the best way to find me, I mostly use my Instagram as my platform now.
Yep.
It's kind of became, instead of just family, it's a family post. It's now DC project posts and firearm stuff. So my Instagram, it's lomag_Mary. So LOMAG_Mary.
Lomag. What is Lomag?
So everyone always asks. Honestly,
I see. I'm like, I don't know what this Lomag stuff is.
No,
I don't even know what this means.
So, and I probably should explain that one day. So maybe I'll put a post out about that too. But Martin, he calls me Louise, which is my middle name, so Mary Louise. So he calls me Louise, and my family's surname is McGuire. So the LO from Louise and then the MAG from McGuire.
Gotcha.
And originally, I mean, that was just my marketing company's name. And then now I use it for everything. So not that it's not firearm related by any means. And
right.
Diana Muller was also confused about that a bit. She's like, what does this mean? It makes no sense. I'm like, it has nothing to do with guns. So
right. I thought it was you live in Connecticut, you got the magazine restriction.
Oh yeah?
That's kind of what I
could probably play off that. Thank you. I'm gonna steal it.
Call them neutered magazines.
And then for the DC project, so you can go to dcproject.info, and on there, I would say the obviously you want to look under about, I think is what it is, and that will show you your different state directors, so you can learn about the other women within the DC projects. If you click on join, then it gives you the opportunity to join us, whether it be if you just want to offer donations, if you want to get more involved verbally, whatever it is, there's different opportunities for people within the DC project.
Right, so you don't have to have your face. You can help financially. You can stuff
Absolutely.
envelopes. You can send emails if you have some web talent.
Yep.
There's plenty of things for people to do.
There is, absolutely.
There are plenty of things for people to do. All right, Mary, this has been a pleasure. I feel bad because everyone's got to hear your story except for me.
Yeah.
I mean, I heard your story through all of the other shows that you've been on. I think I got more of the story than other people did. So take that.
It's a lot more casual just driving around than to look at myself in a screen on the camera.
It is. It is. Listen, before you head out, I want to give you a couple of Riding Shotgun with Charlie GunGram stickers.
What?
Bam!
Awesome.
You got a Riding Shotgun patch.
Love it.
And as I was digging through my stuff today, you get a Riding Shotgun with Charlie credit card knife, not TSA.
Not TSA.
Approved. Right?
That's pretty cool. What camera can I hold this up into?
Any of them are fine. They're all working. There we go. Get yourself a Riding Shotgun with Charlie credit card knife.
That's awesome.
Yeah, they slip right into the wallet, so do not get caught with it in places.
No.
I had a friend of mine, when I first got these, I was giving them out like candy. Like I really was. So I gave them to a friend and she got lost it on an airplane.
Oh gosh.
Like, yeah, she lost it at the TSA and I'm like, I give her another one. Another guy's like, hey man, I lost one at the, I went to the RNC.
Oh gosh.
And I lost one there. I'm like, all right, I'll get you another one, man.
You're going to have to show me afterwards how this thing functions.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being on the show. This is a pleasure.
Thank you.
thank you for watching the show. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. If you are not a member of the Second Amendment Foundation, you can join them at saf.org. You can also donate to the DCU Project, but you can donate to the CCRBKA, the Citizens Committee for the Right to Keep and Bear Arms. Thank you for watching the show, man. If you want to get some Riding Shotgun stuff, go to ridingshotgunwithcharlie.com. You can get a teal t-shirt. These are brandy new.
I'm definitely getting one of those.
Awesome. I bought one for myself because they were on sale.
Yep.
Like, I'm not necessarily thrilled that I can't buy myself a sample, but I wish they would hook a brother up.
Yeah,
but they don't.
Cool.
But I dig them.
I like it.
Anyway, thank you guys for watching the show. Check out this all of your pro freedom podcasts in one place at sdrn.us. That's the Self Defense Radio Network. And we will see you guys next time. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. Awesome.